is up, my bros? Welcome back to another video. In this week's video we are going to be diving deep into the Clio's motor. Very deep actually. I'm busy taking the head off, as you would have seen in the intro. The reason for that is, if you missed last week's video, go check it out. I'll link it up in this corner, where we found out that it spun a bearing. But the reason why I'm taking the head off and not only putting new bearings is this bearing cap actually got hot. You can see the color there, what it looks like where it heated up, and it actually deformed a bit. So if I put it on, I bought a replacement conrod, so this is where the other cap comes from. But if I put it on that one like that, you can see it lines up there. I put the guiding pin in there, and then on this side, I hope this GoPro picks it up, it should. You can see that there's a reach. So if we put a bearing in, it doesn't fit over the crank. So I ended up buying a whole new conrod, and the only way to get the conrod in the motor, take the head off, remove the entire piston, replace the conrod, drop the piston back in, and then we can close the top. I must be honest, it's been over a week since I last worked on this car. I have been scared shitless to work on this motor, to do the timing and stuff. The timing on these motors are extremely, I won't say difficult, but it's not something that you'd attempt if you've never done it before, if you've never done timing before. So I have done timing in the past, but I don't have the tools to lock the cams and the crank. The cam is held in by the tappet cover, I believe, as you can see where all the bolt sits. The cams are held in by the tappet cover. I'm going to continue to strip this motor, and then I'll catch you guys once the head is off. Then we can compare the two conrods, and we can also see what this motor looks like inside, because I believe that this motor has been rebuilt recently. I did not go into detail, but in the old video you would have seen me found the shavings in the sump, or not in the sump, in the pickup. There's no shavings in the sump, so that means it's not my shavings, it's shavings from a previous failure, if I can put it like that. And to be honest, that does not look like bearing shavings, so I'm not sure what failed previously, but definitely not a bearing.
3 weeks later.
What is up, my guys? Welcome back to the channel. It feels so weird for me to be filming again. It's probably been like 3 weeks without any filming. I didn't do any work on my cars in the last 3 weeks, but today is the day where I need to get some work done on this car. I need to get it back up and running. It will probably not be back up and running in this video. There will probably be another video where we'll assemble the vehicle and fix all the damage. As you can see, the head is currently pulled off, and one of the pistons, we had to take one of the pistons out. This one, number 2, I believe. I tried to put this conrod back in the car, or I put new bearings in and I tried to put it back in the car, and I noticed that it won't go over the crank. And upon closer inspection, I noticed that this cap is oval, if I can put it that way. And I then sourced a new, completely new conrod. There you can see again the gaps are different, so this one won't fit the crank anymore, and that's the whole reason why we pulled this out. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this piston on this conrod, and then we'll get the crank polished. I have polished the crank a bit before, but we need to do some more polishing on that. I'll show you guys exactly how I go about that, and then we'll probably drop the piston in there. Okay, so to polish the crank, we are going to use this. I'm not sure what it's called, but it's basically like sandpaper. We'll be wrapping it around the crank and then polishing it. So this is a strip that I already cut, but this one is a bit too thick, so it doesn't fit around the crank, meaning this is too big. So I'm just going to cut a new one, make it slightly smaller, and then I'll show you guys. This is 400 grit. I am going to use this, I think this is 1200 and then 2000. So I'll work my way up to make sure that the crank is completely smooth before we put the new bearings in. Okay, so what we are going to do with this piece of paper is we are going to wrap it around the crank. Let me show you outside before I go underneath the car. Basically, I'm going to wrap it around the crank like this. And then I'm going to use a bit of my blue tape, which is this tape. I'm going to use that to wrap it around the crank to make sure that this doesn't come loose like this. And then I'll be using a shoelace that I'll be wrapping around that as well to turn it. So that means that I polish the entire crank simultaneously. Okay, so I currently have the piston back in. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go in from the bottom again. Then I'm going to put the bearing caps back on. The other three is on at the moment, but they are not torqued down or anything, so I'm going to take them back out, put some oil on the bearings, and then I'll put them back in. And then I'm going to torque them down, and after that we'll turn the motor to see if the motor turns over, because previously when we had this rod in, the motor would not turn over. So I'm going to see if the motor turns over. If the motor turns over, I believe we'll be golden. If not, we'll have issues. But I already put the cap over the crank and it fit perfectly, so I have faith that everything will work out fine. But I'm going to tighten them now and update you guys once we start turning the motor. Okay, so the only thing left for us to do at the bottom of the motor is to put the sum back on. But the problem is these washers on the sum bolts they're all crushed. All of them looks the same. You can see what it looks like. So I definitely need to replace them before putting the sum back on. I already got a new sum gasket, and the oil pump and everything is assembled as you would have seen. So I'll do that tomorrow. Today is Sunday, so I won't be able to get washers now. I'll do that tomorrow, put the sum back on, then we can pick up the motor from the bottom and take this out, and we can start assembling the top of the motor. I asked on Instagram if you guys want to see one quick overview or 2 videos, and this was the result. 82% of you said that you want to see a 2-part series, so this will be the end of part 1. In part 2 we'll basically assemble the top of the motor, and then we'll be able to do our first startup. Hopefully everything goes well, fingers crossed. I believe it will. The motor is turning over, as you would have seen, whereas before with this conrod that heated up, it wasn't turning over as soon as I put it over the crank. So fingers crossed that everything would go well, but I have faith. And then once the first startup is done, we'll do a couple of kilometers, like a break-in period. After that we'll drain the oil, put a new oil filter, and then the motor should be good to go. So fingers crossed for that. I don't know when you guys will see this. It'll probably be Monday or Tuesday. I need to go and edit a video now of some drag racing, which by the time you watch this, you would have already seen the drag racing video. But anyways, thank you for the support. There's some work to be done on the Polo as well. We have a dyno day this coming Saturday, which is the 5th of December. We have a dyno day in Vereniging. If any of you guys want to pull through, you're welcome to pull through. It'll be a dyno day of our entire tuning group. So there will be a couple of tuners with our cars taking it through to the dyno, and ultimately going to be a fun day. I plan on taking the Polo through. If the Polo isn't working, we'll take this through. As you know, the Polo has got some issues still that we need to sort. The crank seal is leaking on the gearbox. So tomorrow I'm going to put the sump on, sort this out, and then after that we'll pull the box out of the Polo, check why the crank seal is leaking, and there's also some fueling issues that we need to sort out as well. So this week is going to be a busy week on both of the cars, and hopefully if everything goes well, both of the cars will be running by the end of this week, so we can take the Polo through to the dyno day. But that's going to be it for this video, bro. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out and reflect your passion.